Hello, my name is Rehab Kimatu. This is my sign name, and I'm right here at FedWin, the Deaf Women Organization, as the Program Assistant Officer. So today we have a wonderful visitor, and I want him to introduce himself.
Thank you, Rahab. My name is Vincent Owino. There goes my sign name.
Nice to meet you, Vincent. So kindly tell me more about yourself. Were you born deaf, or did you just tell us more about you?
My journey on how I became deaf is quite a long and complex one. When I grew up, I was born hearing. I had speech, I could hear. But at the age of 7, things happened that, I just went somewhere around the tree, and then I got an accident there. I was with my dad, and then from that time, I don't know what happened to my ears. I think, I was a child. My father thought I could hear, there was something wrong, and then in the evening when we went back to the home, my mother could call me, but I could not hear any sounds or words. My mother could not understand. They thought it was quite normal. And then the following morning, I got sick. There was a problem. My father was a pastor. He believed that God could do miracles. He never really believed in me going to the hospital. So I stayed at home. He used to pray and pray. He would pray over and over again until my health worsened. Then a friend to my father said that your father has some problem. He tried to advise him. He thought of a spiritual solution and other ways, poured some things on my ear, some oils, but nothing could happen. Then my mom decided to take me to the hospital, a small hospital. Then the doctor said this situation is risky. Let's transfer him to Homa Bay Hospital, district hospital. Then at that time, it was not quite advanced, so I was transferred to Kisumu Hospital, and then they said, your son's eardrum is already broken, so there's nothing we can do. So I went back home. My father had that story. It was disheartening to him. He wondered, how is it that I'm a pastor? How will the society perceive me? Now my son has a disability. So my parents were devastated, and that led to their divorce as well. Sometimes I feel a lot of pain when I share this story, because the time when I became deaf, my father changed. That transition to the deaf world from a hearing world, it was different. Psychologically, the development went, my father's love, my mother's love just went like that. So it was quite a long journey. My mom supported me up to the time, I changed the situation. So when I became deaf, I went back to the normal hearing school. And then when I was in class 5, the administrators of the school said that, the son is good, yes, but you see, his learning has been affected. He needs to be transferred to a school for the deaf. During that time, it was 3 kilometers away from home. But, my mom said he needs to be here. But now, the principal, when he saw me, he saw my performance improving now when I was transferred up to now.
Okay, it's really nice to hear and sad at the same time to hear your story, how you became deaf at the age of 7. And you got your hearing loss. You've also talked about how your parents separated. And has that separation affected you even up to now?
Honestly, when adults marry, they can decide to divorce. They will not suffer, but who will suffer? The children. There's an English saying that when two bulls fight, it is the grass that suffers. So that divorce, my mom could go get married, she could regain her love, but the child's love without the parents or without the father being separated from them was difficult. So when I was growing up, my mom was married, but I never saw that stepfather to be my original father. Maybe he could have provided that love which my father provided, but when growing up, that fatherly love, I did not have it. My mom, the emotional love was there. There were times when I could look for him. Sometimes I could go. Then when my mom will hear that I'm looking for my father, she will get frustrated. Sometimes my father will try, but sometimes I could see that, my father was not really interested in me as a deaf person. He saw me as a burden. And then when I was in class 8, I remember I went to speak to my father. I told him that I finished class 8, I need to go to high school. He never saw like I had a future. So I went back to my mom. She was angry as usual. And then I went back again to the father. I told him I've finished my Form 4, I need to go to the university. He looked disinterested. And then from there, I stopped looking for him. Then going forward, I went to the university. My father heard that I went to the university. So he was interested to see where I was. But for now, as a grown-up, I used to look for him, but right now I don't look for him. He is now the one maybe who looks for me.
Wow, it really is sad. So when you moved to a deaf school, did you start learning sign language yourself? How did you learn it? Explain more.
Learning sign language for the first time was quite difficult, but I was fortunate. When I was in class 5, I adapted easily. I learned through challenges because I was quite advanced in age when I became deaf. Also speaking and signing, I was like in a lonely world, so I adapted. The teachers supported me. Sometimes I could speak the children, sometimes I could speak to them, and I was inspired to learn. I never really had many challenges. Through that adaptation and the support I got from my teachers, all was well.
Really nice. I also want to ask, when you went home, how did you interact with your family who are hearing?
For me, as for my family, they never really accepted me fully. For my mom, it was normal. She said, "This is my deaf son." She could meet me. She could speak to me. She said, "You must speak." My brothers had to use speech. Sometimes I could try to lip read. Other times it was quite challenging. Sometimes I could tell them, "Go and learn sign language." And they said, No. You are born hearing, speaking, continue with that speech. Sometimes we could write back and forth together as well as my speech.
All right, that's nice. So you said that when you cleared high school, you performed very well and you're able to admitted to the university. So at the university, were you learning with a sign language interpreter or how was it?
Thank you. When I was admitted to the university, I think I changed 3 universities. First, I went to one university. And then, being a deaf, it was the first time a deaf was being admitted. They never had any deaf person. So they wondered how they could help me. It was difficult. So they advised me to change to another university. So I had stayed there for a week. And then later on, I changed the university. I went to Kenya University. And then being deaf, they said, no, this is like a double burden to us. In their system, they never had a background experience of people who were like me. So finally, I went to Kenyatta University. I was admitted. I saw some deaf people there. The university system was, it encompassed us to mainstream with others in the class. So I could jot down notes from the hearing counterparts without an interpreter. Sometimes few friends could come and help me, but I remember the friends were also students. Sometimes they could not listen to the lectures and at the same time help me. So mostly I could jot down the notes, try to write them down, and then I would go to the library to read. I just proceeded on.
Wow, what an interesting struggle. So when you graduated from the university, what next? What did you want to become, your future aspirations?
When I went to the university, I did a biochemistry when I was admitted. So the lecturers saw my challenges. Most of the time they could speak, it was oral, teaching chemistry, being deaf, I wandered there, helplessly. Then the lecturer decided that I had to change my course. Say it's good, but not really friendly for you as a deaf person. So I had to move to special education. I did special needs education. So I was actually fascinated to become a teacher so that I could change the situation, I could have become a biochemist, but no, I was taken there because most of the deaf people were in that arena. So I never really practiced as a teacher full time, but I went on and on. Most of the time we look at an opportunity which is lucrative, so I kind of diverted to another opportunity other than teaching, but going to change things going forward.
Thank you so much. Please tell me more about your work. Where do you work?
I deal with the program in education. I not want to lose my dream and my cause for the deaf community. So in as much as I'm doing something different, we are trying to develop things that we are going to make deaf education easy and accessible.
Thank you so much. So could you tell us more that when you finished university, how was it looking for employment?
Kenya and other parts of Africa, as we know, getting a job is another job. That means that, you have to work tirelessly as you look for that employment. It's quite challenging. The hearing people have a lot of challenges. What about we, the deaf people? The challenge is of immense magnitude. In the hearing world, there's this challenge of autism. No, they believe or they perceive that since I can hear, we can communicate. If this person is deaf, we cannot communicate. If we get the job, how will it happen? So when I finished Form 4, I just waited at home. Sometimes I would apply for jobs, but the HR people will ask, how are you going to work as a deaf person? And then I would ask, how do these people work? But you cannot hear, how are you going to work? So can't I carry things? What if things fall? Can't you hear? That's another attitudinal problem that I faced. So my journey to getting a job was quite challenging, but we tried, despite the social barriers that we faced. I had university knowledge. I got support from friends. It was quite easy for me, but way back I faced a lot of challenges. My brothers and deaf people outside, they also have many challenges like myself.
Thank you so much. Maybe what can you advise the deaf out there who are really struggling looking for employment? Is there something you could advise them on how they can achieve like what you did?
The first thing, think about yourself. If you don't think about yourself, nobody will think about you. See yourself, know your value, know your capacity, what you can do, and what you want to become, and how you want people to perceive you. First, accept to change yourself, and then thereafter, think about how you're going to approach the society. So my deaf brothers and sisters, it's very, very important, first and foremost, to see ourselves, see our capacities, see how we are going to develop ourselves. And then thereafter, plan your things, prepare what you need, any job that you want, as long as you have the documentation, it's okay. Have some requisite skills because many employers are looking for experience. How do you get your experience? Sometimes through volunteering. It is part of personal development. And in the society, integrate yourselves, interact, engage with people, build your personal experience and expertise. Sometimes you can volunteer with some organizations. Initially I used to work as a volunteer. When you volunteer, you give your best. As if it is your work. So just deliver your best, and then the employers will see your potential. The problem with most of us feel like the society must help us. Now the society is changing. Everybody needs to struggle. The hearing brothers and sisters are struggling. So even us, we need to struggle. Before other people struggle for you, you need to struggle for yourself so that other people will see where your capability lies.
Thank you so much. That's really beautiful advice. So now, Vincent, can you tell me about yourself? Are you married? Are you single?
Okay, marriage. Everybody has a dream of getting married. Well, I'm not married, but I have a dream that one day I will get married. But I'm not sure or certain when I'm going to be ready for that wedding.
Thank you so much. Vincent, can you share one of your successful story when you look back until now, something that you have achieved, and what's your biggest dream that you want to also achieve?
I feel proud of myself. My family, all of us, all of them are hearing. No, it's boys. I am the only person who managed to go to the university and the only person working. This is not bragging. This is how God works. How things happened to me. All my brothers and sisters, they hearing, but never got to the education level that I've attained. It makes me proud. It makes me think of myself that, what happened to me. And it is also my dream to change the society. This journey, it's not me alone. I know many deaf people have a lot of challenge in regards to communication, accessibility, education. So my primary objective is actually education because we have a big gap. So I think I have the power, the ability, and if I could have the resources, we could wipe out the challenges that we have in regards to deaf children education because of the gaps that we have. Most of the societal members perceive us as stupid, dumb. We know the pain in our shoes. So what we went through, I will not want our brothers to go through. And we also try to approach the government. Sometimes they will see us as political people. But you see, my dream is to eradicate the gap that we have in the area of deaf education access, and also how we can overhaul the system. So we appeal to people to work on us. To work with us. We depend on mostly the hearing to assist us. But sometimes they do things in a manner that is diversionary to our expectations. So I have a dream that in the future, maybe say 10 years, deaf education, we'll have quality deaf education and equality.
Wow, such a beautiful story. So you're saying that in 10 years' time, you want to see that the deaf education is successful. So right now, what are you doing so that that goal is achieved?
I'm seriously working towards it. So now I'm interested in language, those languages, so that sign language is a foundational language for the deaf. And then from there, teaching, methodologies, pedagogical skills for teaching the deaf people to become successful. And then from there, what we're going to do is we're going to do partnership with deaf-led organizations, government agencies, so that we develop a curriculum that is going to be best suited for the deaf.
Wow, thank you. That's really a beautiful dream. So as a deaf man, what can you advise to the deaf boy child out there? Because we have seen, like for example, there are many deaf girls who are impregnated. So what can you advise the deaf boy child to make sure to protect their sisters out there in the community, especially within schools, so that we can reduce the number of impregnated girls that are happening? What's your advice?
Thank you. This issue of early pregnancies is a very, very big issue currently. You see, it's a problem in the society, but I'm not going to blame the society solely. Well, the society might have its failures, but it's time to wake up and empower the girls. But sometimes they focus mostly on girl empowerment because of the challenges that the girls face, but they neglect the boy child. While we encourage the girls, we need to remember that the problem stems from the boy, and if they are removed from the programs, they're not going to remove the problem. So there's a problem in the society. There's more focus on girl child empowerment. So, to be honest, girls are sufficiently empowered compared to boys. So society has kind of neglected us, and the society expects a lot from us as men. But you have not empowered me. You have left me behind. How do you expect me when I'm actually the bearer of the problem, the one who brings the problem? So this issue of early pregnancies, health issues, there needs to be an holistic approach of advising men to become responsible for children, so that when they grow up, they know. Where do these girls get pregnant from? From the men, from the boys. So right now, we need to change, need to turn the tables and focus on the boy child. We need to have some counseling sessions that are going to lead the society to ensure that actually boys protect those girls as opposed to removing the girls, and that will work.
That's very good advice, which I agree totally with you. So Vincent, as a boy child, you've grown up with your mom. I don't know how, as a deaf child, I'm not sure whether your mom educated you about sexual education for you as you're growing so that you can be responsible. Can you please expound on that?
We are Africans. Discussions, especially on matters as sex, actually in most African traditions, our parents actually never felt comfortable discussing that with the children. That is a responsibility that was given to elders. But now we have some cultural shift. Now fathers are no longer responsible. Sometimes mothers are not responsible. They are all over busy looking for food. They have many caps looking for food. They wear many caps. Sometimes they cook. Sometimes they don't have the time to sit and counsel the children. The elders, most of them have died. So honestly speaking, I've never attended that training. I just grew up. I learned it in school, but it was not sufficient, because when you went to school, the first school was at home. If the parents failed to teach me at an early stage, so what I learned in school was scanty. That is how African parents were. They were not comfortable teaching matters, sexual reproductive issues.
Thank you so much, because yes, the situation right now is complex. But what can you advise the deaf children out there?
Thank you. I really feel the parents of the deaf children have failed. I always feel sometimes they don't see me as Vincent, they see me as a deaf child. This deaf child cannot, if I teach them how to farm, how to go to a farm, if I teach them this and that, they'll not understand. Remembering when I grew up, yes, I was born with 5 brothers who died. So sometimes they would go to the farm, I would be left alone. My mom would wonder, no, Vincent, you are deaf, you stay at home. So while growing up, I didn't know how to operate in a farm. So I can't blame myself. I could blame my mother because there was a perception that I was deaf. So it is a culture that is on and on. It is transferred from one parent to the other of the deaf people. One time I was looking for a wife. I met a deaf girl, who could not cook, who could not do anything. I could not blame the girl. I asked her, didn't your mom teach you how to cook? She said, no, she didn't. So the parents failed. It was at a family level. So going forward, let's leave what happened in the past. Deaf children should be seen as children, accepted as children first. What other family members are doing, they should be integrated to do that together. They need to learn how to communicate with them one-on-one. Let them learn how to communicate in sign language so that they can bond with those children. So that when they they leave the school, they go home, they don't just stay like that. Sometimes people complain, your child is rude, this and that. But you see, if you don't interact with me at home, it's a problem. So the parents need to learn how to communicate with the children. Treat us as deaf as children, not as deaf people. And then they need to build them. If you are a father, you have a deaf son, please play your fatherly responsibilities. Build the deaf children the same way you build the hearing children, so that in future they'll become men, they'll have families, They'll secure employment and several things. So they need to build them just like women. Deaf women build fellow deaf women. So, so that when they become husbands, they'll be looking for food and all sorts of things.
All right, thank you so much, Vincent. As you look back, the deaf situation in terms of the education space, especially here in Kenya, also if you know, when you talk about health, the economic empowerment, the political space, there has been a lot of challenges. And you as Vincent, what is your message to the government?
I think all the problems that you have mentioned have happened because there has never been the involvement of us, you know. Somebody cannot just build a house and give you. It is important that they engage you as the people who are going to live in that house. If you want to cook or prepare a meal for your visitors, sometimes it's important to ask, what do you like to eat? What would you want to eat? So that when you cook, you don't waste it such that when a visitor comes, they say they don't eat a particular kind of food. So we need to be involved from the beginning, especially in education. We have policies. We do have policies, educational policies. But who makes these policies? The hearing people. But they make it for the deaf. You know, but it's not the right system. It is a problem when a deaf person tries to work with the policy. Things do not happen the way they should. It's different. So we have many things, but it begins from inclusion. So deaf people should be included as we formulate these policies and even as we navigate through ways of ensuring that we implement them. And even when it comes to economic empowerment, we need to be involved, even when the government is trying to support us. You know, the deaf people do not need help or sympathy. We only need support. And we make the environment accessible. Even in the health sectors, we have issues in regards to accessibility. Even when it comes to medication, sometimes in the medical department, sometimes they feel that they don't need to inform us anything. We have problems. When they go to the hospital, sometimes the deaf get wrong medication. Maybe they never understood our problems. So things need to be made accessible in every sector. Communication needs to be clear. In the medical field, it's quite sensitive. We can't only depend on sign language interpreters. Sometimes we have emotional issues. The best thing is we need to have policies to ensure that even integrate the doctors or the medics to understand sign language such that communication can be easy, so that when the deaf person goes to the hospital and an interpreter is not on board, you know, sometimes I could have an health issue that needs confidentiality. Sometimes I might not need an interpreter. So we need to eradicate the societal attitude to those issues, and we need to interact. We need to be given equal opportunity. The Constitution has enshrined 5% allocation in terms of opportunities. The Disability Act, you know, but most of the times we are not seen as persons with disabilities. You know, we have this problem of autism. Most people believe that somebody needs to hear in order for them to work. So it becomes a double burden to them. They feel that if I need to onboard a deaf person, I need to also onboard an interpreter. So we also need policies that will support implementation of deaf agenda.
Thank you so much, and I agree with you. So the final question, what is the message that you want to give to deaf adults out there to have a successful story just like yours? What message would you share with them?
I had initially mentioned that the journey of success begins with oneself. Before other people come on board to support you, you know, you cannot be on slumber, then tomorrow wake up and succeed. And the people around you need to work with them. Prove your abilities that you can do something. Even to the deaf adults, the deaf youth, try to prove yourself. Don't worry about your situation as a deaf person. Don't say that other people have challenges, that you also have challenges. Remove that thought. Think about yourself and also dare to try, and then you'll get support. There's a one saying saying that you cannot climb a mountain alone. You need someone to push you. You know, be with people, be with your government, with the government, family, the society. How will the society help you? They need to remove the attitude. Attitude is what makes people not to try. What will people say about me? Remove that attitude from yourself as well. And also the government can support you to success. How will they support us? We need accessibility. How will the family support us? They need to encourage us. They need to give us equal opportunity. If the boys go to school, let the girls go to school as well. If they're hearing, doing something, let us allocate the same roles to the deaf people, and then they will succeed. And also to the deaf youth, please, see yourself first. Don't look for help outside. See yourself first, and then others will come to support.
Thank you so much, Vincent, for your time. Today I've learned one thing about life. It's good to have an introspect of oneself before you look at other people to support you.